In addiction stories, the addict's side of the story is usually overlooked. His thoughts, his feelings, his reasons get no mention, and we usually only hear a one-sided story from those he has affected. What drives this overwhelming addiction? What drives these addicts to sacrifice and risk everything else in pursuit of that one drink? Is there something that we are missing? All our policies, all our interventions, all our decisions in regard to the addict are made around the addict, over the addict's head, behind the addict's back, but never with direct consultation to the addict. If we are to solve our alcohol and drug addiction problems, isn't it time that we ask the addicts, what exactly bothers you? Where does your real problem lie? The headlines on every media platform continually scream out, Kenya is a drinking nation. The figures given are mind-boggling. They are staggering figures. And worse, it's not just among the adult population. Our children too are entrapped in this nightmare. Our schools, especially boarding schools, have become a haven for this vice. A raft of knee-jerk reactions are usually implemented after these pronouncements. Alcohol is poured out in this locality only for it to emerge in the next village. Chang'aa dens and other illicit drinking places are closed down, but it's only further driving them underground. You will find purportedly closed premises, but behind the closed outer door, there is a room full of customers in there. Others take their trade to the field. They only repackage the chang'aa and these third generation alcohol sachets in a different way. Sellers are arrested only for others to emerge. It's like a hydra-headed monster. You cut off one head and two emerge. But I ask, what drives this overwhelming addiction? What drives these addicts to sacrifice and risk everything else in pursuit of that one drink? Is there something that we are missing? All our policies, all our interventions, all our decisions in regard to the addict are made around the addict, over the addict's head, behind the addict's back, but never with direct consultation to the addict. If we are to solve our alcohol and drug addiction problems, isn't it time that we ask the addicts, what exactly bothers you? Where does your real problem lie? Because we all know these guys. We have them in our homes. We have them in our workplaces. Some are our friends, some are our spouses. We know addicts, we know alcoholics. But try as you might, their actions seem totally incomprehensible to you. From every angle that is visible to you, their life should be totally different. They seem to have potential, yet it seems they are hell-bent on destroying their lives, and their only mission in life seems to be the continued indulgence in alcohol and drugs. Their drinking dens have become their homes, and despite warnings and societal disapproval, they spend most of their time and energy in the pursuit and consumption of their drug of choice. I'm sure you know these people. Or maybe, just maybe, you have them among your own family members or friends, and it is draining you. You have talked to them, you have pleaded, you have cajoled, at times you have lost your temper and screamed and shouted, because it's inconceivable to you how in a world of limited opportunities can anyone choose to squander and waste the opportunity available to them. Attempted to say, enough is enough. Maisha ni yake. Many of us who know such people are at that breaking point. But I invite us to collectively pause just one moment in our collective condemnation and ask ourselves, could there be an explanation for this situation? Could there be unresolved issues that are contributing to what is going on? Could there be pain behind this behavior that you are seeing? Could there be something that you are not seeing? Allow me to illustrate with a true story about unresolved issues, which over a period of time transformed an innocent boy into a hardcore drug addict. It's the story of a father and his son and their complicated relationship, which was worsened by the son's slide into drug addiction. Unfortunately, it's not a one-of-a-kind story. Our children face these things or will face similar situations. I can only hope that by telling of this story, by using this story as an illustration, we may become enlightened enough to ask ourselves what may be the causes of the situations that we are seeing. I want to call this the three sides of a story, because in addiction stories, the addict's side of the story is usually overlooked. His thoughts, his feelings, his reasons get no mention, and we usually only hear a one-sided story from those he has affected. In this story, I want us to hear all three sides. That's why I'm calling it three sides of a story. I want us to hear the addict side of the story, the father side of the story, and the cold, hard truth that always lies somewhere in between, but which always seems inaccessible to the players involved. This is not a story about who was right or about who was wrong. But listen to the story and maybe, just maybe, you might learn something from it. First, let me give you some context before we dive right into the story. I am the team leader at GLC. GLC is a rescue and rehabilitation facility for adult men living in the streets. Yes, those men we derogatively refer to as chokoras if we pass them by. Because at one point in my life, I too was one. We have a 4-stage program which we take them through in 90 days. Now our program revolves around the 4R rescue. This is the physical removal from the street, then rehabilitation, then reconciliation with their loved ones, and finally reintegration back into society as contributing productive members of the society. So I work with street guys, and this is relevant to the story. Well, so in the course of my work, a guy calls me up and he tells me he's got this relative of his living in the street. The only requirement at our place is you're a man, you're an adult, you're living in the streets, and you are willing to transform your life. So I said, fine, you bring him over. So the guy was brought over. He had spent a lot of years in the streets. He was bitter. From the moment he walked in to our premises, he was a bitter person. In a course of time, he had changed his religion. He was now of a different religion. He had changed his name. He was basically a bitter guy. But we took him in because he was willing to change his life. And as the days went on and he got into the rehabilitation program, he began to open up. Now, our rehabilitation program has two main components. One is the Word of God, because we believe that it is only God who can return you to the state that He meant for you to be in. And two, we also involve a lot of psychotherapy, a lot of counseling. So as he went through this, he began to open up. He began to introspect. He began to look into his real reasons why he actually drinks. And in time, he was able to give us his story. Now, at the same time, because of the third stage of reconciliation, we had also reached out to the father. We were trying to, get the father for a reconciliation meeting. But the father was totally adamant that he wanted nothing to do with his son ever again. And on asking for more details, the father gave me a story, which I will repeat for you and call it the first side of the three sides of a story. Let us give the story from the affected person's side. So the father tells me the story. He educated his kid, he educated his son, he took him to some good schools. After school, he tried to get him jobs, he tried to set up for him business. He stood by him when this guy was kicked out of various schools. He has fed him, clothed him, and done all that our father should do. But at one point, his son made an attempt on killing him. And from that point in time, he washed his hands off this son and wanted nothing to do with him. When you listen to the father's side of the story, it sounds totally justified. And as the son went through the rehabilitation process and began speaking up, he too had a story, which I will call the second part of three sides of a story, the addict's side. Now this guy, his story started way back. When he came to GLC, to our center, he was 38 years of age. But when he was able to tell us his story is a story of pain stretching 30 years back to the age of 8 years old. And that is where he was able to trace his pain to and the reasons for the current condition that he finds himself in. At the age of 8, his parents broke up. The mother went, he was left with the father and an elder sibling. The elder sibling went on to boarding school and he was left with the father. The father brought a male relative home who would take care of his son so that it frees him up to do his normal duties. Sounds like a fantastic idea, right? But as soon as this male adult was established in that household, he began to sodomize the young boy. And this boy at the age of 8 began to be sodomized and was sodomized continuously over the next 4 years until the age of 12. Where was this boy to go? He didn't have anyone to talk about it, and so he learned to live with his pain. He lived with this shame. He lived with all this bitterness. He lived with the humiliation and all the other things that must have gone on in the mind of this 8-year-old kid from 8 to 12, with no one to speak to, with no safe space to go and speak into. Eventually, time moved on and he went into high school, eventually went to boarding school, and in boarding school, he found a group of others experimenting with some bangi, and he got his first taste of bangi. And the bangi seemed to answer for him a problem. It took away his pain. It took away his shame. It took away his humiliation. It made him feel like a person. Unfortunately, got to the dependency levels and eventually the addiction levels. So he started being kicked out of schools. He started later on, you'd be kicked out of colleges. Later on, you'd be kicked out of jobs. Later on, he couldn't hold down a business. He could hold down nothing in his life. And everybody looking on from the outside, he wasn't speaking his issue. So anybody looking on from the outside would probably just say that is an idiot hell-bent on wasting his life, because nobody knew what he was going through. And eventually it came to that point where, with laser sharp focus, he decided that in order to get rid of his pain, he would have to get rid of the person who caused the pain. And that was when he made an attempt on his father's life. After that attempt, his life fell into misery, and eventually he degenerated into living on the streets. He became homeless, and eventually he was just a chokora in the streets. And that was where God got him from and brought him to GLC. So we've had two sides of these three sides. We have had the father side, we have had the addict side. So let's look at the truth that lies in between. The father was totally unaware that this had happened to his son. And when he eventually did come for the reconciliation meeting, it was the first time that he was learning of what had happened to his son, and therefore began to understand why his son went through what he went through. The son, blinded by the pain, could not appreciate anything else that the father had ever done for him, and only saw him as the cause of his pain. The truth is, the father loved the son. And nobody possesses a parenting manual. Nobody comes here with a parenting manual. The father parented as best as he could. He sent his son to school. He gave him opportunities in work, in business. He fed him. He clothed him. He did every single thing that a responsible parent should do. But the one question I will ask is this: was he a safe space for the child to speak into? Are you a safe space for your child to speak into? Are you a safe space for your spouse, for your relatives, for your friends, for your children to speak into? Because had there been a safe space to speak into, 30 years of pain may have been avoided. The pain started at 8 years. We rescued him from the streets at the age of 38 years. 30 years of pain need not have happened. I want to ask you, might there be some pain behind the actions of that addict that you know? Might there be some pain behind the actions of that alcoholic that you know? I am not saying that their story is one of pain. I have merely used the above story to illustrate what could be possibly going on. But, and especially to us parents, let us be safe spaces, especially for our children. Because when our children find a safe space into which they can speak, they will tell us what is going on in their lives, and issues that may crop up 10, 20 years down the road may be avoided. Perchance, you're listening to me, and you're the one seeking all the wrong coping mechanisms. Seeking coping mechanisms in all the wrong places. I don't know your pain. I don't know what you're going through. Find a safe space to speak into. Because though I may not know your pain, though I may not know your suffering, one thing I can assure you is that there are no solutions to be found down the tunnel of alcohol and drug addiction. The only thing that you will collect from that tunnel is a massive dose of pain, if not death. There are no solutions in addiction.